Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Dr. Professor Mom. So, my last few videos have really focused on the professor side of things, like how do you integrate into academia? How do you craft a startup? How do you interview? Like some of the things you should be thinking about. And today's video is really going to speak more from the mom side of me and kind of how I struggled in my postpartum with my son, especially with the demands of my job and in this single motherhood. As I've said before, my husband is in the military and he doesn't live with us. So I just want to be like very transparent about some of my struggles and some of the things that, really kind of crafted or shifted my 2024 and kind of how in 2025 I'm starting to, kind of find myself again and kind of shift back into, I would say, like the old Ariel with a new outlook, with a new vision. So my son was born, he's about to be 2 years old, which is crazy. My son was born in February of 2023. And honestly, after his birth, I felt like things were fine. I had a little bit of anxiety about getting postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety. And I think because I was so nervous that I would get it, later on, as the months went on, I realized now that I ignored a lot of things that were telling me that I was really struggling. But anyway, in those first few months, I felt like it was just bliss. Like my husband had more paternity leave than I had maternity leave, which is wild. We'll talk about that in later videos. Oh, academia. Oh, America with maternity leave. But regardless, we were there. We were really enjoying our son. He was a lot of fun. He was funny. He's still funny today. And then my husband left. And my mom was there keeping my son, and I returned to work. And I remember like the first month, I returned to work that May. I was struggling. The way I had approached my job in academia was I was a workhorse. And if you know me, then you know like I've been a workhorse my entire life. So this is not new to anyone who knows me. But I operated in a way kind of like a robot, right? I would go to work, I would work like all day. I would come home, work out, eat, and then I would go back to work. And I literally did that for years. And then I had my son, and I would work all day normally. I run a PhD group, so I'm coming back in May. My students haven't seen me for months. Of course, they have, a lot of challenges and issues they face, so I'm trying to help them. And there's little time for helping myself during the day. And then I would get home and the second job would start. And for months, it took a while for me to turn off the first job and turn the second job on. And I started to feel like I was falling behind, which in hindsight, I was not falling behind. But in my mind, I was like, I'm not working this job the way I'm not working all the time. And I had a lot of guilt because I felt like I wasn't working all the time. And anyone who's in academia, PhD, postdoc, that our mindset is that we should always be working. Even when we're at home, we should be working. Like there should never be a time we're not working unless we're asleep, with very little sleep, right? So that guilt and shame was very strong when I went back to work because when I came home, I could no longer work in that way. I could no longer, stay up till midnight working on a proposal or, writing a paper or crafting a class. Like the second job was turning on, and the second job it was tough, right? Because I was learning, and the learning curve is steep. The learning curve is not, it's not sitting here. The learning curve is very steep. And I was really struggling, and I felt like I was struggling to hold it all together. One of the first proposals that I wrote, and I don't even know how I did this, like to this day, like that's why my NSF Career Award, of any of the awards that I've ever won, means the absolute most to me because I don't know how I accomplished that. I came back like beginning of May And I was in this program that helped you like craft your NSF career award. I think every institution has these type, well, not gonna say every, but most institutions have these types of programs where they help you like craft each piece of your proposal. Then by the end, they send it off to like professors or older professors and they review it. And I had never in my life ever asked for an extension. My entire life, like classes, I've never asked for an extension. And I remember having to be like, hey, I'm just coming off of maternity leave. Can I get a 2-week extension? And even that was hard for me. Like, I never did that before. And I didn't have a lot of confidence. My confidence was shot. And I was feeling like I'm not going to be able to do this job. So I had to really buckle down and write this 15-page proposal in the matter of a month. Wrote the proposal, turned it into like the review process, and then I had like another month to submit the proposal. So, submit the proposal. I don't know, again, I don't know how I did this. I remember when I got my reviews back, they were very positive reviews from professors at my institution. But even when I got the positive reviews, I felt like this is my worst proposal. Like this is the worst proposal I've ever written in my life. Like it's terrible. I don't even know why. And I almost really considered not submitting. I considered not submitting. And my department chair said, "Well, you'll be fine, Ariel. Like just submit it. You know you've had a lot of success. You know, and if you get the reviews back, all of my friends who were NSF Career Award winners told me like, just take the reviews. If you don't get it, it's fine. Like no, most people don't get it on the first try. Just take the reviews and resubmit next year. I promise you'll be fine. So, you know, shout out to all of my colleagues who encouraged me to submit and really, you know, just encourage me to think better of myself. That I will always be grateful for that. So, submitted the proposal, that was done. So, I'm like, okay, I got that out of the way, but then there's all these other things that I feel like are piling up. And I also am starting to feel not so good anymore. Like, I'm starting to feel strange and I'm having a hard time putting words on it, but I'm starting to feel strange. And even in my mind, I didn't go to postpartum anxiety or postpartum depression. I just was like, I'm feeling off. You know, maybe it's because I'm returning to work and like this is, you know, things are new and I'm having to balance a lot of things. So I don't think there's anything like really wrong. So I found a therapist and she was okay. I think she was good for some things and not good for other things. But I have to always say, I always have to caveat with this was that I talked to people all day and I was so exhausted that when it would be time for her and I to meet, like we changed our meeting time from mornings to midday to afternoon. And it just felt like no matter when it was time to talk to her, I just was exhausted and I had nothing else to give. So I felt like I wasn't making the most out of the therapy with her. She was kind of helping me like if I needed to vent, but I wasn't really making any progress. And I felt like my mental health, and you know what? Mental health encompasses a lot of things. So I want to be very specific. I felt like the value and my worth was crumbling. So I felt unstable. Like I felt like I wasn't worthy. I felt like I wasn't being valued in a lot of different spaces. And I just felt like it was all just I feel like every month a piece would just crumble, right? Like and we'll get into like at the end. But so that happens. I'm feeling behind because I'm not publishing a lot of papers. My group is still very young. At the same time, my postdoc goes on maternity leave and she has her own, you know, postpartum struggles. Our kids are literally the same age, so you know it's just me with a lot of responsibility at home, and a lot of responsibility at my job. And it felt like I was never getting any peace in any place. I just wasn't getting peace, and I struggled to verbalize that because I felt like anytime I would even say to people, like especially women, older women, not my friends for sure, but older women, like, hey, they immediately would go to, but you love your kid, but your kid's amazing. Like, but you know, being a mom is such a great thing. And it's like, I'm not saying that I don't love my kid. I love my kid. There are not words to describe how much I love Mansa, but it still didn't take away from the fact that I was feeling icky inside. And every time I would express myself, it would always be, oh, well, your mom's there helping you. Or, you love your kid. Like, your kid is worth it. And it's like, my kid is not worth my mental stability falling apart, because if my mental stability falls apart, I'm not going to be able to be a good mom, right? That's what I'm not going to say good mom, but I'm not going to be able to care and be there for my son if I'm not caring and being there for myself. So it just felt like you couldn't ever really express like how you were truly feeling without being met with some type of rebuttal to that. Well, God, children are a blessing from God. Children are this, and so it just felt like you're just supposed to suffer. It felt like suffering was what this was supposed to be about, which is wild. But I think in our community, especially in the Black community with Black women, there's this level of you are supposed to suffer. And so, especially in the older generation, so when you're looking to them for guidance or advice, the advice is always, it's okay for you to suffer. You're meant to suffer. You're supposed to suffer. What I know to be true now is that's not true. No one is supposed to suffer. Things are not supposed to be filled with anxiety and depression and sadness. But I feel like that's what you get met with a lot of, is put these people or put people before you. That's your claim to fame, or that's what you're supposed to be doing. So you feel kind of trapped in your emotions because you can't fully express them without being met with judgment. And I don't always think people, and I'm going to say this, I have amazing women in my life and they are amazing people. And I don't think that in any way, shape, or form that they were meaning to be malicious or meaning to come off that way towards me. I just think that that is how they have been trained to think. And I think that's how a lot of Black women are trained to think, right? That they are supposed to suffer, and that's the advice that they give other women. Like, you're supposed to suffer. And they don't say it like that, but they kind of judge you and make you feel bad for expressing your feelings. They would say, oh, just pray about it, just pray about it, just pray about it. And when you are praying about it, you still feel icky. And I'll talk about now, like, how I approach prayer. But at the time, that's how it felt like. Because I didn't really have, I would say, a strong relationship with God. I felt like, you know, I knew who God was. I went to church, but I didn't have like a foundation in him. And I didn't feel like I was being led by him at the time. So I just felt like I was alone in this suffering, and that's just what it was going to be. So I'm in therapy. I'm not really getting a lot out of it at the time, so I end it because it's not really helping. If anything, it causes me more anxiety because I feel like I have to meet with this person and I don't really want to talk. And I don't want to talk about these problems because I'm feeling shame for them. So the year goes on, and I noticed that, like, no matter how hard I'm trying, I'm not able to lose weight. If you know me and you know my backstory, when I got to Michigan in grad school, I lost like over 100 pounds. So, and I maintained that weight, very active, eating very well. I was just very conscious of my health, right? And eating right and working out. So I gained let me just be clear. I gained 80 pounds when I was pregnant. I'll never forget a doctor. I had an ultrasound for Monsa, and the doctor, my OBGYN is not signing off on the ultrasound. So I remember the doctor writing in the notes, we should be very concerned about the amount of weight this person has gained. And honestly, like, I gained a lot of weight. I remember I was about 6, 7 weeks. My mom and I went to Barcelona, went to France, and I had a conference in France. And we get there, and I just packed clothes. I just packed like my normal conference clothes, pants, dresses, shirts, not thinking anything of it. We get to France. I get to Metz. No, I get to Paris, and I'm trying on. I don't know what made me like try on the pants. And my mom was like, oh, those are too small. All of the clothes I had packed were literally too small. We ended up going to Zara and H&M, and I got these, like, mom was like, just get dresses. Like, get dresses that are tighted, like, fitted here and loose at the bottom. Like, just get dresses. So I bought these dresses from Zara and H&M, and I got on a scale And I mean, in 6 weeks, I had put on about 20, maybe maybe 20 pounds. Like I'm really like thinking it was about I'm thinking it was about 20 pounds. And I had changed nothing. I was still eating the same. I was still working. I was still literally running. I was still lifting weights. I was still doing all of these things. Nothing changed. I gained weight like that. So by the time I had the 20-week ultrasound appointment, I was about 30, almost, I probably gained about 40 pounds. Yeah. I found I was pregnant early May, and I probably gained like 40 pounds by August. It was wild the amount of weight I gained. And I was like, well, everyone's body's different. So maybe, it'll be fine. People tell you, oh, if you breastfeed, you're going to lose all this weight. That is a lie. Let me just be clear on that. That is a lie. That might be work for some, that does not work for all. So just know that for yourself. So anyway, by the time I delivered Monsa, I was 80 pounds heavier. Literally, because Monsa, I had to be induced. He just took his sweet time. So I had an appointment before my induction date, and I was 80 pounds heavier. I actually weighed more than my husband at the time. So fast forward, where Monsa's about 6, 7 months. I've only probably lost about 20 of the 80 pounds that I had gained, and I've really been trying to lose weight, and nothing's working. So I'm starting to feel a little weird about it, especially someone who had been big before, lost a lot of weight, maintained it. I felt like old feelings of, feeling less confident were really starting to sneak up on me. Like I wouldn't even wear I don't like regular clothes. I would only wear like sweatpants. Literally, I would only wear sweatpants. It was like the summer and I was wearing sweatpants because I just had zero confidence in the way I looked. And so I started to talk to my PCP like, hey, like I'm not really losing weight. Like I'm doing all this stuff and nothing's working. She's like, okay, let's talk to a nutritionist. Let's talk to a dietitian. I meet with all these people, and I'm on all these diets and nutrition plans, and absolutely nothing is working. I'm not even getting like body recompositioning. Like literally nothing is happening. I'm holding on to at this point like 55 pounds, and nothing's working to get rid of these pounds. So January rolls around. It's almost Monsa's first birthday. And at this point, I am really starting to notice crumbling in my mental health. Like, I'm really starting to notice that a lot of these things, like I always say the first class I taught coming from maternity leave, I always feel terrible for that class because I was really struggling to hold all these pieces together. I just felt like I was just drowning in responsibility. There's a financial strain that comes with having a kid because kids they do take money to have, and so your excess money that you're used to having, especially the effect is exacerbated for me because my husband and I don't live together, so we basically operate as two separate households. I support my household here in Columbus. He supports his household in St. Louis. So the financial responsibility is starting to add up on me. I'm feeling the weight of the financial strain. And Monta's not even in daycare at this point. Like, let's keep that in mind. And I'm starting to, and I'm feeling like I'm asking for support without really being it's weird because it's like you're asking for help, but you're not asking for help because again, there's that piece of feeling judged by people and feeling like if you're honest, you're going to be met with this like judgment. So like you're asking for help in small ways, but you're not being completely honest about how you're feeling in a lot of ways. So when by the time the new year rolls around, I'm not losing weight. I'm feeling terrible. I'll never forget my husband and I went to his homecoming and he was like, hey, like my mom can watch Monta, you can come out. And I was like, Matt, like I do not want to go out with you. Like I feel like a fat pig. And this is candid. I'm not gonna sugarcoat how I felt because I want you to, if you're feeling this way or you felt this way, I want to help you through it. I want to be honest. So I literally said, I feel like a fat pig. I'm not going to some bar club, hang out with you, and you're like looking like this, and I'm looking like that. Like, I don't even want to put, like, half of the time, like, I don't need clothes. Like, I would go to the store and try on clothes, and I'd be like, oh, I'm like a large now. And I'd be like an extra large. Or I'm like a 12 and I'm really like a 16. And I've been a 16, 18 before, and I didn't like it then and I didn't like it now. And again, I'm not shaming anyone for their weight, but I have to be honest about where I feel comfortable. And people can say to you, "Oh, you look great. You look amazing." If you don't feel great and you don't feel amazing, it doesn't matter what people say to you. People can gas you up till you cannot be gassed up anymore. And if you don't feel comfortable there, whatever comfortability is for you, you're not going to feel good on the inside. And I say that because I think people will say, "I think you look great," and they feel like if you say, "Well, I don't feel great," that that should, what they say should dismiss how you feel. And that's not true. If I don't feel good at a 16 or 18, I just don't feel good at a 16 or 18. And if you're a 16 or 18 and you feel great there, wonderful, but you may not feel great at a 24, right? Like, we all have where we're comfortable with our bodies. I was not comfortable with mine. So I kind of felt like I was hiding from the world. I didn't like to take pictures. I looked through my phone, and all of my pictures with my son at that time was with it's literally my husband and my son. I didn't like taking pictures. I didn't like people taking pictures of me. I'm going to show this picture of me and my friend on a cruise. I'm going to post that picture. That I looked terrible. My friend was like, "Send me that picture." Like, I will burn that picture. I will never send it to you. I look terrible on that picture. But anyway, so by January of 2024, I'm not feeling good. Like, if feeling good is I'm like, if feeling good is at 100, like, I'm literally sitting at a negative 100. Um, but I get some good news. So the career award, the NSF career award we talked about, I actually won, and that helped me like feel like, okay, well, at least I'm still doing what it takes to, do my job and be successful. But there's other parts like the publishing where I'm not publishing a lot because I'm really like I have a lot of brain fog. Ooh, something I want to go back to. When I started to notice that I had postpartum anxiety, my husband and I took my son to Japan. We were in Tokyo, and we were in the subway. So, and I mean, if you ever to Tokyo, it's a lot of people in a small space. So there was so many people like in the subway. I felt like so overwhelmed, and it was heightened because I felt like my son was there, and I was feeling extreme anxiety like I had never felt before. And I want to be clear, I've been to India, I've been to Mumbai, I've been surrounded by a lot of people before. Tokyo has nothing on Mumbai. So I am used to being surrounded by a lot of people at one time, right? Traveling, it's not my first time. I've been to Japan before. So I felt this overwhelming anxiety, and I felt like I'm going to pass out. Like, I got hot, I got heated, and I felt like I was going to literally pass out. I had never felt that before. And I told my husband, I was like, "I just want to go back to the room right now." And we went back to the room, and I had never felt so anxious. And so, I just felt so anxious. And I was like, man, like I've had like a panic attack before, but I don't think I've ever panic attack for like failure and rejection. Not like I'm surrounded by all these people and I feel like so unsafe. And like I feel like I just need to take my son and run out of here. But I know like I can't leave here. Like, I need to get on the subway. I need to get on the train and get to my destination. So there was like all of these things just compounding. So by the time January is rolling around, again, I'm starting to notice things, but I don't want to say, "Oh, I'm like I postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety." I'm like, I'm just not feeling well. I'm not feeling good. I'm not feeling good about myself, right? This is normal, right? This is back to that I am supposed to suffer mentality. Like, suffering is a part of motherhood. So I'm starting, I'm turning off what I should be turning on and saying, "Hey, I need to get some help." I'm saying, "Oh, well, this suffering is just a part of motherhood. I'm supposed to suffer." Anyway, I found out I won the award. I'm really excited about it. And I think at this time, I want other people. I'm feeling like I'm not worthy, and I'm not seeing my value. I'm struggling to see my value. So I'm kind of pushing other people to do things to show me that I am worthy and valuable. And the thing about that is that that's not someone else's job. And we'll talk about other things like how where I am now in 2025. But at the time, I wanted other people to see in me what I was struggling to see myself. And when those people fell short of the impossible demand I was giving them, they I would just explode. And I would take that out on them. And even in a meeting at my job, there's a female faculty member who has been like a mentor to me, who I love, adore, and look up to. And we were in a meeting and she did something pretty minor and I just exploded on her. And I later came back and apologized to her. But at the time, I was like, why am I acting like this towards her? Like, I know that she is a amazing human. She is a good person. Like, why am I treating her like this? And a lot of it was just like, again, I was looking for people to show me that I was worthy and valuable. And when I felt like they weren't showing me that, I would lash out. And don't know if you're feeling that way. If you're feeling that way, I completely understand why you're feeling that way, and how terrible that makes you feel, and how terrible it feels when you know you've hurt somebody and you feel like you can't control it. And I think that's the craziest thing about postpartum anxiety and depression, is that you know that, like, when it's over, like, you know, even in the moment, you may know like how you're acting is not good, but it's like you cannot control it. Like the emotion is it's so powerful and it's so intense, and like you cannot control it. And like, even if I would be talking myself like in my head, like count to 10, like calm down. It's like, forget that. Brain is already like headed to like, I'm going to do this, right? I'm going to lash out. Anyway, so that starts to pick up. Um, in April, in March, my mom leaves, and I feel like when my mom leaves, shit hits the fan. Excuse my language. Like, it hits the fan, because now I am really by myself with my son, and I am lacking like a support system. And your girl is really starting to struggle at this point. Because I'm never getting to tap out. I'm never getting a break. I'm never getting a mental break. You know, my mind is turning at work. I get home, my mind is turning at home. I go to sleep, I'm barely sleeping. That's another thing. Like, I have so many things on my mind, so much anxiety, that I'm not sleeping at all. Like, I'm probably averaging, like, I had a student tell me, like, why do you email me at 3 in the morning? I'm like, because I'm up at 3 in the morning. I'm getting very little sleep. And my son sleeps well. This has nothing to do with my son. He's always slept well. It's literally like I have so much anxiety that I cannot sleep. Like, so I'm working with very little sleep. Um, and I'm doing this really by myself. And I don't have any family here, right? And so I'm feeling, and again, I'm struggling. I have amazing neighbors, and I just have to say that they're amazing people. But I'm struggling to ask for help, because that part of like, you're supposed to suffer. Like, this is a part of motherhood. Suffer, suffer, suffer. So I'm like, okay, I need to publish, because my fourth year review is coming up. I need to publish papers. I'm getting close to submitting for tenure. I spend all summer writing these papers. The summer is terrible. I'm struggling. I need a break from my son. I'm not ashamed to say that your girl is drowning in responsibility. Again, I'm still working with these dietitians, nutritionists. By this time, I've hired a personal trainer. I'm not losing any weight. I absolutely hate the way I look. I'm going into the second summer looking like this, and I am not, at this point, if I am honest, I am not even human at this point. I am literally a walking robot. I am not human. There is nothing about me in this moment that is human. I am literally a robot, and I am really struggling. Like, struggling is a very nice word. I don't even think there is a word to describe how terrible I am feeling on the inside. We go on this cruise, and I have the world's best friends. Like, oh my gosh, you guys just don't know. I go on this cruise with my friends. And I'm also feeling lonely. I'm feeling very, I don't say this, I didn't say this, but I'm also feeling just very lonely. Because again, my husband and I are in a long distance marriage. I don't have family around me. I'm still building my friend group, but a lot of my friends have young kids, and so they have their own thing going on. So I'm feeling, for the first time in my life, I am feeling an extreme level of loneliness. And I think there's a difference in alone and loneliness. Alone is like physical, like I am physically alone. Loneliness is the feeling of just feeling by yourself and feeling like no one loves you, no one cares about you, no one values you, no one cares about your worth. I remember I would ask my husband like every day, like, do you love me? And I think he would, I don't know if he ever thought about why I was asking him that, but it was because I just felt so unloved. I felt so lonely. Like the loneliness was so profound in my life. So honestly, having Monza would be like a source of like not feeling lonely for a little bit, but he's a little guy, he's going to sleep. But I just felt very lonely. So I have all of these just awful emotions that are compounding every day. By the end of July, I learned that all of these papers that I spent all of this time writing get rejected. And by the end of July, I'm tired. I am frustrated. I have very little confidence. My self-esteem is very low. I'm not feeling worthy. I'm not feeling loved. I'm not feeling valued. And now I've been rejected. So, literally, every negative emotion that you could be feeling, I am feeling, and I'm feeling it all at once. And I don't have any type of self care routine because there is no time for self care because I need to do my job in the day. Because I know when I get home, there's very little time to do that job because I have to take care of my son. And so now I'm feeling the weight of like publications. That's going to be a week. If I cannot get these papers published, I got a lot of strong points in my dossier. That's the package of academia, of people in academia. Like it's all the things you've done in one package. Everything's going to be strong, but that's going to be weak because I am really struggling. And I, by August, when August, like the feeling of I'm telling you, I'm not feeling like a human. I was feeling like a robot. Now I'm feeling like nothing. By the time the school year starts in August, by the time the school year starts in August, I'm probably feeling like nothing. Like I got zero worth and I'm feeling like nothing. And the thing about that is when you get so low like that, you're just like, you don't care. You don't care about you don't care. The only person I actually cared about was my son. The only person that I truly like felt like I need to care for is my son. Everybody else, I felt like I don't care. Like I had a very like I don't care attitude. When August rolls around, I'm feeling like nothing, and I'm feeling like trash. In all honesty, and I just have a full breakdown, like to the point where I am saying and doing things that like they are not me in any way, shape, or form. They're not who I am. They're not who I was raised to be. They're not they're not anything like me. But it is so bad for me, like that I don't and again I go back to like you're asking for help and you're saying, hey, like I need a break. I don't think people realize like when you're saying that, like like how you really mean that. Because you're saying like I need a break, but you're not saying like, hey, I need a break because this or because that. It's just like I need a break. And I think people say, oh, well, all parents need a break. Like you'll be fine, right? But it's like, no, I really need a break. And I'm at the point in August where I don't even recognize I don't recognize myself at all. Actually, it's not me. I don't know who it is, but it's not me. And I am turning into someone that I know I am not, and who God does not want me to be, and who I am not intended to be, but I am here. And like I told you with postpartum anxiety and depression, the thing about it is like you know how your acting is bad and you know your behavior is terrible. And even in the moment, you know it's terrible, but you cannot stop it. Like it's like the road runner, like the feelings and the emotions are so intense that you cannot pull back. You have arrived and you are going all the way. And when you stop, I think in that moment when I stopped and I thought about the things that I had did and the way I had behaved towards people who I loved and adored and thought the world of and would never want to intentionally hurt, I felt so much shame and guilt. Like the shame and guilt, and I have shame and guilt for other things. So now the shame and guilt is terrible. So now I'm feeling even worse about myself because now it's so bad that I'm not just hurting myself, but I'm hurting people who don't deserve it, who don't deserve how I'm treating them, right? Um, and I'm feeling shamed. I'm feeling ungodly. I'm feeling like I deserve nothing but bad. I deserve nothing but how I'm feeling. And I felt like that like I look at my life as semesters as an academic. I think that's common. So fall semester, I'm on like this apology tour, and it's for sure sincere, but I think it's not tackling the root of the issues. It's not tackling like what's really like why am I really behaving this way? Like why am I and it's the first time that I say to myself, I have postpartum anxiety and depression. I literally had never said that to myself. I had never acknowledged that in myself. I think I was so busy trying to pretend to be strong because I felt like I needed to be, that was the first time I literally said, I have postpartum anxiety and depression and I'm suffering. And I don't know really what to do about this. It's a very weird emotion because I need to take care of my son, right? My son, it's me and my son, so I need to take care of him. So, you know the story of my mom getting sick. And honestly, like, I don't want to cry about it. That's like where I feel like if things were terrible for me, they were downright like hellish for me because now I have a lot of, you know, emotions that I haven't dealt with. And now I'm dealing with my parent, and my parent, you know, may not survive. And then so it's like, it's not letting up, right? Nothing is letting up for me. So I, at this point, I feel like there's no amount of therapy that's going to take away some of these emotions. So I had started reading the Bible like that October, you know, just trying to gain my own understanding. And I think that was very helpful. And I wasn't doing it to like, at the time, if I'm honest, I wasn't doing it to draw closer to God. It was twofold. I'm not going to say that. I, I wasn't doing it intentionally to turn closer to God. I was doing it because I felt like I had nowhere else to turn, if that makes sense. And it doesn't make, probably makes sense, doesn't make sense. I don't know. But that's where I was. I was doing it because I felt like I had nowhere else to turn. I was pretty much at rock bottom and I needed to find comfort in something. And what I have been taught my whole life is when no one else is there, God is there. So I said, well, here I go. Um, and I, but my intention at the time was not, and I'm being honest with it, I'm not lying about that. My intention was not to draw closer to God, but really just I felt like I had nowhere else to go. So I found a lot of comfort in the Bible in November and December. And on New Year's Eve, I told my niece, I said, I need, I feel like I need to be in church on New Year's Eve. Like I need to go to church, and I just need to sit with God, and I need to be in the spirit of God, and I need to go to church. So my niece and I went to church, and I don't even know how I arrived here, but I was there and I said, God, I just I have nowhere else to turn. Like I can't do another 2024. Like if I do it, I'm not gonna survive it. Like I don't think I can survive it. Please guide me, please lead me. And the next day was January 1st. I had been in Alabama for 2 months at that time. So my son and I drove back. And um it was a good it's 10 hours from where I'm from to Columbus, Ohio. So it was a good amount of time to sit with a lot of emotions and pray to God and talk to God and to be very honest with God about how I was feeling. And at this point, now my intention is to draw closer to God. Now my intention is to get to the root of these issues. Now my intention is to understand what God's plan is for me, because my reliance on human and my reliance on me is not working. It has not worked for sure. It's quite terrible. And so January 2nd, I have an aunt who I swear like is like a prayer warrior. It's my mom's oldest sister. Like I'm like, if God's got a hotline, like this woman's prayers are going directly to God. So I call my aunt and I say, can you just pray for me? And my aunt prays for me. Um, and I feel peaceful when my after my aunt prays for me, and I am like, now my intention in 2025 is to be close to God, is to be have a foundation in God, is to know that I am not alone and I'm very much loved and there is a great plan for my life, and I can be honest about how I'm feeling, and I can be true. I can be honest. I can say, God, I ain't feeling it today, right? And that's not shameful, and I'm not meant to suffer. My life is not meant to be a suffering life, right? Like will I have bad times? Well, of course you'll have bad times and you'll have good times too. But you are not meant to suffer for the rest of your life. That's not God's plan for you. And I think now when I read the Bible with such intention, right? With such like truly learning from these stories and finding comfort in these stories. And I think also learning to just forgive myself. Um, and I've really been stuck in the story of David. I've been reading that story like a lot. Because of how faithful David was, and even when he made a mistake, he repented, he took full accountability, right? But his faith was there, and it felt like that was me, right? Like I'm this good person and I made mistakes, and I'm willing to take full accountability for that. But also just knowing how much God loved David, right? Like he loved David unconditionally. And so I think in 2025, I think well, it's not a thing. I know a lot of my joy and peace comes from understanding God's love for me and God's plan for me. And, you know, I know everyone's not like there to, maybe you're not there yet in reading the Bible, but I've been reading this book by Kobe Campbell. My friend Sierra recommended it to me, and it's called Why Am I Like This? And it's about healing from trauma. And that's really what I want to spend 2025 truly healing from a lot of things, and um, working through, I felt like working through a lot of my postpartum anxiety and depression that I had. Um, and this book is it's religious, so it's biblically driven. But it just shows you how a lot of the trauma that we have is because we seek advice from man and we don't seek advice from God. Like And I think it's very helpful because sometimes you feel like people are like the whole like you should suffer or you're a bad mom if you say, you're having a bad day or you're not supposed to feel these emotions or you're supposed to be strong all the time. I think I love Kobe because I think she does a good job of saying, well, that's the complete opposite of what God says, right? That's the complete opposite of the stories of the Bible. And it's even helpful if you have religious trauma because, again, it's like that's not what the Bible says. And my pastor says something the other day of like, we're seeking for man and we're seeking when we already have the blueprint, right? We already have the Bible. So that's been and I don't mean this to be like this super, like, trying to convert anybody to Christianity. I'm just telling you where I am in 2025 and what I am prioritizing in 2025 and how I'm healing from my past trauma and how I'm healing from 2024, really, right? And so, and first learning to just forgive yourself and also learning that a lot of people struggle. As I've been telling my story in my blog, Aerial Views, I'm learning that so many people have very similar experiences. So many people have so much trauma, and so many people that trauma really comes to the surface when they become a parent, especially a mom, because they have someone depending on them, and it brings to the light a lot of things, a lot of flaws that you may have, but a lot of things that like characteristic traits that are just no longer going to work for you because you need to be, in a sense, like you have to be strong. Someone is depending on you. I don't think that goes away. Like that's just the reality of being a parent. Like when you sign up to be a parent, right? Like you're signing up for that. My son should depend on me. I should be there for my son. That's the reality. But I have to first be there for myself. And so kind of reprioritizing in 2025 and finding some joy, and finding peace and looking and having that source of joy. I think I told you there's something that Kobe said in her book that when we have trauma, a lot of the people around us, we're giving them impossible tasks. Like there's no way they're going to complete these tasks, and they're basically re-auditioning for a role that someone has already hurt us with, right? And like these, bless these people hearts that are close to us. And for me, I would say the person that got it the worst for me was my husband. So I think, God bless him, and but it truly in her book, it's like the people that are closest to you, right? Because they're right there. And you're putting in these impossible tasks, and I think a lot of it is that you're relying on a human to tell you that you're worthy and you're valuable. And now what I know in 2025 is that's crazy, and I should be, and that I am and should be relying on God. And so I think that that's where I'm at in 2025. And I think once I didn't even get into like the weight loss thing. That's right. So when about in the fall semester, again, academic, look at my life in semesters, I learned that I'm talking to my PCP and she's like, okay, we've done everything that we can do. Like, you need to go see a doctor that specializes in weight management. You should go see a doctor, a female doctor, I should say, that specializes in weight management in women, especially women of color, because how we gain, lose weight is very different than other people. And that's for every group. Like, every group of people I've learned that it's genetic, but then also like different groups, ethnicities experience weight loss and weight gain very differently. So having someone that specializes in, and that's the plus of, I know that that's a privilege of being at a university. It's just research and development is there and is prioritized. So you know that. But I learned that I have insulin resistance. I learned that I have a hormonal imbalance. And so now I have, I'm starting to fall semester, I'm starting to like take medication to like regulate my insulin resistance, my hormonal imbalance that I've been experiencing, which does explain a lot of my moodiness. And lost a lot of weight. So I lost like 45 pounds. Jesus. Because I was holding on to 50 pounds, as I told you, for almost 2 years. So that helps you. And again, I go back to like, you have to feel good about yourself. Like, you don't like the way you like again, I say like, I don't like being in a certain way. I'm just being honest with that. So I feel like in 2025, I'm feeling like, I I'm slowly gaining my confidence and esteem back. Working on my relationship with God and being rooted in that, reading the Bible, and we're not reading the Bible to be like, oh, I just want to read the Bible, but really like I told you, intentional. Like I literally have reread the story of David for like the past like 2 weeks. So, again, being intentional in my reading and truly understanding the word. I started journaling, just getting my thoughts out. I started trauma therapy. So I've had 2 sessions of hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy is very intense, and I would not recommend unless you are ready for it, because it brings out a lot of emotions, and they're not fun. They're not fun to deal with. So, but again, for me, my goal in 2025 is being authentic and getting to the root of my issues, and healing in things, and just being a great human and a good friend and a kind and compassionate person. And so, I just wanted I wanted this I wanted to share with you the truth about my postpartum experience. And I wanted to be very candid about, my year, and, how I balance this all. And, I'm starting to feel like myself again. So, your girl found out she won a PCAS, which is a Presidential Early Career Award for scientists and engineers. It's a big deal. I'm so excited. I was awarded that from Joe Biden. And your girl's going to throw her a party. Like, I'm throwing myself a party, inviting all of my friends, all of my colleagues. I'm going to have so much fun. I'm going to celebrate myself. And again, I said to you, I spent too much of my time asking man and people to prove to me that I'm valued, I'm loved, and I'm worthy. And your girl's not doing that in 2025. I am celebrating myself. I am taking my wins. I'm giving myself pats on the back. One of my colleagues says, "Don't wait to celebrate," and I am applying that to everything in my life. And I feel I have a very positive outlook on 2025, because I feel like I'm starting to feel like myself again, and even better, right? And so that's all for Dr. Professor Mom today. And I hope this video was helpful. I tell people all the time, like, comment, write me, private message me. My email is public record, right? I'm a professor at a public institution. So my email is public record. You can email me. And you can always hit me up on Area Reviews, my blog. And I hope this helps you. I know the struggles are, they can just seem, you can feel very lonely in it, and I get it. And so I hope this video is very helpful. And as you know, I am always wanting to be authentic, and I'm always wanting to be honest with you, because I don't want people to feel alone. And I think a lot of people feel alone, in their feelings and their journeys, and it's not true. I think we all experience it to a certain extent. But anyway, you guys have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.